As the coordinator mentioned, my name is Dr. Amit Thakker. I am the chair and president of the Africa Healthcare Federation. Next slide. We can go back. I just wanted to mention, can you push the previous slide, if it's possible? I just wanted the attendees to know that we are a federation that comprises of 5 regions across the continent. We have a headquarter in Nairobi and in Addis Ababa, but are present in 27 countries across Africa. If you look at this slide, it shows you the challenges confronting the Africa private sector. Most of you who are in the health sector will agree with me that a fragmented sector leads to slow growth. And the public and private sector sometimes see each other as competition. And more often we've seen, and especially in the pandemic, that when the public and private work together and have more trust, the results are very favorable. If you focus on high revenues rather than economies of scale, it's another challenge that we see in the African healthcare space. The market's also small, so this particular conference, which is focusing on harmonized regulation, allows us to have a larger market. You will see that the intra-Africa trade is so limited, and it really affects the health sector and strains it quite a bit. We all talked about the low purchasing power, and without government financing, it limits market potential. This is where now the universal health coverage and the SDG initiatives are really scaling up to have more coverage across the continent. And finally, limited infrastructure due to high cost of investment. You will hear from many of the panelists and partners, it's a major concern. Next slide. So what do we do as a federation? And we're really teaming up and partnering with so many private sector companies and so many institutions. Our main goal is to unify the private sector. And this leads to developing larger health markets. And finally, we would like to engage both the public and private actors across the continent. This is a simple formula that Africa Healthcare Federation uses to make a larger footprint of the private sector on the continent. Next. As I prepare to invite Dr. Ahmed Aguel and the Africa CDC team and the panelists, let me share with you some of the private sector initiatives. They've done quite a bit. In fact, the private sector really stepped up when the pandemic hit. And in February, March last year, and since then, not only have they built up resources or changed capacity and repositioned several factories to start producing PPEs in Africa and engage in having PCR testing done and training several health workers across. So I think both the public and private sector have stepped up and done quite a bit. On the vaccine rollout, you can see West Africa, North, East, Southern, just to pick a few examples I wanted to highlight. That's really come up very well. The vaccine manufacturing facilities have been identified in Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal. You've all heard about the Institute Pasteur in Dakar. They really done very well. So have factories in Egypt, Morocco, together with Nigeria, Ghana, and Senegal. In Morocco, they launched a COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing project as a result of PPP. In East Africa, I think one thing to highlight is how a PPP initiative allowed for private sector to purchase vaccines. So the first 1 million doses of vaccines have been embedded into government purchasing in order to have more coverage for people who are willing to buy vaccines at a price. These are very controlled, but hopefully this will make some of the countries reach herd immunity quicker. In South Africa, you can see a private sector has been integrated in the pandemic response from the beginning. And later you'll hear from one of the panelists how they have played a very important role with Johnson & Johnson, and what does it hold for Africa when it comes to vaccines and access.